So we're now going to demonstrate the thinking partnership, and the question we're going to think about today is what would draw people to a course for leaders as thinking partners and what would be in it. So we're going to take 15 minutes each way using the thinking environment principles and components. So, are you ready, Shirley? And I will start the timer for 15 minutes and ask you the question. So time starts. So Shirley, what would draw people to a course for leaders as thinking partners and what would be in it?
Well, thank you, Caroline, for setting that up so well. The draw would be certain things that are hard to do for leaders. So, for example, first and foremost, getting people to think for themselves. And I think we need to really draw out the benefits of having a team that think for themselves. You know, that they... so I'll put that to one side, because in order for you to be comfortable with that, you need to really know your team and trust them. So in the relationship that's developed through a thinking partnership, the leader will understand better where their team come from and what their assumptions might be. And I think they'd understand each other better. And I think if they gave and received partnerships, which would be part of this model, the team would understand the leader's gaps, so they could feel confident to step up and challenge the leader when necessary, in a helpful and supportive way. So building the trust in the relationship and the understanding of how each other think and how to get the best out of each other. So that sounds pretty lovely. Safety. I think so in order for people to perform well, more and more the neuroscience is showing us that we are creative, we are imaginative, we're brave when we feel safe. And that is a leader's job, and our working life tends to be not safe. So we're competing for the job, we're having to do more in less time, and some of these things may be possible if people are able to feel safe, nurtured, connected up with each other. Something personal for me, that feeling connected with my team is a life boon. I just can't think of anything more life affirming than feeling I have a connection with the people around me that are working for me, and that I feel I can make allowance for them because I know them, and because I know them well, I don't feel they're taking advantage. So when things are tricky for my team members, if I know them well, I'm able to push them in the right way, in a way that's not going to break them, and ask for things that they can do, and ask them to think about, could they do more. So there's another leadership thing that I've read about, which I think this is Dan Pink, says start from where your team member is and then nudge them the step forward. Well, I wouldn't want to be doing the nudging, although I probably do that, but what I'd like to do is let my team member do their own nudging. So saying, okay, this is what the business needs, a bit like we're doing now. We need to have a course that really attracts leaders to want to be thinking partners. And without having to tell you everything that you know and start from where you are, I just want to ask you that. And I want you to take yourself as far as you can in that exploration. And that will be further than you've been before, I suspect. And that just seems so easy for me. Instead of having to think, oh, how far can I push Caroline in this regard? I would just think, ask her the question. And in your case, and I'm sure in everyone else's, that's what happens. So the Dan Pink bit, which is start from where they are and nudge them. I don't know where you are, and I don't know where to nudge you, really. But by thinking together, we'll get that. So what does a course need to have in order to achieve those things? So first of all, I think the commitment to the thinking partnership, first and foremost. So it might be nice to say to people, you can come and look at this video of Shirley with her team member Caroline, to say this is how they thought about a project that they were working on. How would would that be good for you and your team? I think we could gather some evidence from other thinking partner bosses, but I think also we gather from the neuroscience what we know. And I'm not sure, I think it's Dan Pink, it could be Simon Sinek, who says there is lots that science knows that business doesn't pay attention to. And we could really use that evidence and say, business knows this. Business knows that being safe is better for us than being scared. Science knows that. But business doesn't seem to want to get that paradigm. It's a bit like an optical illusion that won't go away. It just won't go away. So how? But I think a lot of leaders know that, and I think what the leaders who already know that optical illusion isn't working for them will come. So let's talk to them. Let's not try to remove the optical illusion. Let's just find the people who already know frightening my staff is not working. And I don't want to frighten them. And even if frightening was good, morally, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't. I simply wouldn't do it. Even if that was the best way to get a performance out of you, I would just have to say, I'll accept what you can do without being scared. I don't want to frighten. I'm frightened enough in my life without someone deliberately frightening me to get better stuff out of me. So, I get a bit excited about that. So, it needs a proper commitment to the thinking partnerships. It needs some philosophical shared values. So to say, we are saying, whether this is true scientifically or not, morally, this is a way that seems to be more benign. And so if you want to operate from that point of view, let's see the best we can do for people within a framework that you could subscribe to in terms of your own values. When I say that, it just makes me relax. I don't have to prove it. It's just better for me to do it that way. I like that. And I'm not prepared to do the other thing. And I think there's a lot of people who fit that mould. So then we have to say, okay, if this is your view, let's do these things. So we do thinking partnerships first. Then we go into all the applications. So I'm imagining our typical 2-day thinking partnership start point in multiples of 5 or 4 per trainer. We'd be lucky to get that. We need to get everyone in the team to the level where they can teach that, or we just carve it up into levels that they can teach at this point. So, I mean, I'm qualified to do that, and that's great. But we can break down the other bits into different things that other people in the team can deliver. So I don't have to do, even though I'd love to, I don't have to do all the work. But the Thinking Partnership one is at the moment, until you've got Thinking Partnership teacher, you can't deliver that one. I think that's the same for a couple of others in the team. But that's okay, that will just be a matter of time. And you can shadow when I'm doing that, and before long, you and the other people in the team can be in the Thinking Partnership course, learning your skills. And then the other bits, they are so easy to demonstrate. And I wonder if we don't take on that we teach those to the leaders, and then we go with them to their various facilitations and support them in becoming that thinking partnership leader. So we have a strategy day with one of us, with them. And this is where you, Karen, and Laura you're already qualified to support them in that. And that would be quite a lovely device, that they go with some support, or even with some teaching. So saying, I have decided to be this kind of manager, I've learned all the things, but I need your help as a team. I need you to understand the philosophy behind this and why we hope it will work. And that we're upholding a principle here. We're not necessarily imposing a method. The principle can be interpreted in lots of different ways. But the principle is everyone matters. The principle is it's good for us to think for ourselves. It's good for the world, it's good for the business to think for ourselves. The other principles, yes, if it's everyone matters, everyone gets a turn. Having time to think is important, that every big decision we make is improved by having time to think. So we demonstrate that in all the applications, and then they go and apply it. That sounds like a really nice course.
So, is there anything more that you think, feel, or want to say?
How much time have we got left?
Just checking. We have got 5 minutes.
Well, I think I'll make a little plan. So today I want to write the outline with what we just said, with depth coming in from other people. I want to send that out to Karen and Laura for their input. And in writing the outline, which I always do, I put the why would you come? And I would like that to be done. And so I would like to go for a further goal just to see if there's any assumptions in my way.
Okay. So, what more would you like to achieve with this session?
I would like to write the outline with an attractive description as to why people might like to come, and send. That's what I'd like to do.
Okay. So, is there anything you're assuming that gets in the way of you writing the description of the outline?
I need to stay focused. I could be assuming that I'll just run out of steam and get tired and want to have a little lie down and go to the pub. So I sort of want to make a commitment. I'm assuming that I won't commit to seeing it through. I just will get tired. I'll run out of steam and let's go with that one.
Okay, so is that true?
I often do run out of steam and want to just go and do something else. But let's say it's not inevitably true.
So what else could you credibly assume? So it's not inevitably true that you're going to run out of steam or want to go to the pub?
Yes.
So what else could you assume that will help you to write this description of the course outline today?
I'll just say my reasons. I forgot about that.
Oh, yes.
That's okay. The reasons, and then I'll answer that. The reasons why I think it's not inevitably true is that I often can pick myself up, especially when I've got company. So if I sort of get low energy, we'll just have another think. So that's my reasons for. So now I'll answer the question. So what could I credibly assume? With support, I can re-energise myself.
So if you knew that with support you can re-energise yourself, how would you go about writing the outline for the course?
I'd make a very quick framework and populate it with as much ease as a pair, maybe with you adding pictures and, so that it already feels easier and energised because we're sharing the responsibility. And that's another thing that is probably such a burden for many leaders, is the responsibility. So I feel I've got to drive it. Actually, I don't. I mean, when it was evident with the group, when we talked about this first time, they were all as keen as mustard to drive it. So I think my instincts are right. Write it with you today, send it out to them, meet again with them sooner. Maybe, I mean, I know Laura's going away, so we might not be able to, but share this video with them and say, this is what we thought. What do you think? Do you want to think with us about this? So even though Laura might be away, she might still be able to Skype with us, or, that we can move this along. She's very keen, and it would be lovely. So, did I come up with a credible assumption?
Yes, you did.
What did I say?
You assumed that with support, working as thinking partners and realising that you don't have to drive it, you can write your outline today, by the end of the day.
I can. Ask me again. See this time.
You've got a minute.
Yeah.
What more would you do if you knew that with support you could write this outline today?
I would have fun. I like work to be fun. I'm fed up of everything being so hard. I mean, it's not hard every time, but sometimes it's hard. Thank you. Well, we don't need to write it down because I've recorded it.
Yeah, so we can watch that again. 40 seconds. Is there anything new?
No, thank you very much. Shall we do appreciations at the end?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I will do an early bong.
Bong!
Bong! Okay, so let me set the time up again for the other way. Have a quick slurp.
Yeah,
My
tea is required.
Cheers.
So, Caroline, what would draw people to a Leaders as Thinking Partnerships course, and what do you think needs to be in it?
It is really interesting to have this reflection with you, because when you first mooted it, I had the feeling of, I don't know enough about leadership to contribute to this. So to actually be asked and given the time to think about it, it's a little bit worrying, but also gratifying, because maybe we will find that I've got something to say on this from a different perspective, from my experience of work and what I've heard people say. And what I hear about leaders that friends and family have experience working with is quite a lot of insecurity in the leaders and a disconnection between them and their teams. And it seems as though sometimes they don't want to share their vulnerabilities. They don't want to be seen as weak, perhaps. There's not much communication going on with some leaders that I've heard about. But that must be an incredible weight for that leader, for that person leading, who feels that they can't share their processes and they have to come up with everything being fully formed and ready to go. It's an incredible weight of responsibility, which if you have a team, why not share it? So it requires maybe a willingness to share your difficulties, so perhaps to accept some vulnerability, but work is going to be so much lighter as a result and so much better, and people being asked what they think, that is going to build fantastic relationships in the workplace. It is going to be more like a family, perhaps. You're actually all working together towards something you believe in, and you share the difficulties. So if, speaking as someone who's worked for leaders, if they know what I'm going through and if I know what is affecting them, it is much easier to be compassionate and make allowances. So bringing compassion to the workplace, which something weird is happening in the world of work, and I hear so many stories of people struggling and under massive stress. I think it's badly needed. I think that it's going to be very interesting for leaders to share this time equally with people working for them, and extremely revealing in a short space of time. They're going to hear all sorts of things they knew nothing about, better understanding of what people working for them need, and a feeling of I can provide it. I think people are naturally collaborative and want to help, so that's part of the assumption in this method, isn't it? That everyone has a good idea and we will help each other. So removing that idea of competition, which often seems to exist from what people say about workplaces, competition between each other for the next job, competition for the attention of the leader. Perhaps if the leader is seen to give attention, everyone knows that they are going to be listened to equally. That's going to reduce that sense of jockeying for position or working long hours in order to stand out or whatever it is, those other behaviours that go on. I love the idea of training the leaders and then going with them and helping them facilitate in their workplaces. And it is such a generous thing that the leaders could do for themselves and for their people. So I agree that I think they need quite an immersive experience to start with, to get into the culture of it, because it's essentially simple but does require a lot of practice to be able to listen without the agenda of your own butting in, even being able to see it. So a day at least at the beginning of, we're totally doing this all day, and then thinking how do we apply it in the meeting situations. So situations I've encountered recently are people needing to mentor staff. There are those things, and what do you do when someone's having a crisis as well. So there are quite a lot of different workplace scenarios this could be brought to, as well as problem solving ones or creative. What shall we do next? What shall this project be like? So I'm just thinking through some of the leadership courses that I've been at with you and help facilitate the kinds of things they say. And a lot of what they say, people on those courses, it's about what's happening at home as much as what's happening at work. So I guess that is the other part of this, is whatever topic is under discussion, we're having a think about. It's what's going on all around. It affects us at work. We're not compartmentalised people, just an employee, and then we leave that and we go home, and then when we go to work we leave that. So it was really interesting holding a meeting with researchers about work-life balance, for interest. And in fact, that was probably more significant in terms of their performance at work than specific issues at work. So it could be interesting to introduce into the course how you would use it for mentoring, particularly using the thinking environment mentoring where the mentee drives it. What do I need to know and who shall I get it from? And then the person mentoring them also is listened to by the mentee. That is so beautiful, because I'm pretty sure any other employer in this scenario would not have asked me what I thought about a leadership course. So, but maybe I am coming up with something which will feed into it. And it's certainly prompting me to think, what do I have and what do I know? So I'm just ask me the question again.
So what else do you think will attract people to a course about leaders as thinking partners? And what do you think needs to be in that course?
What else will attract people? Well, for some of the other courses we say, what happens in your meetings normally, they're like this or like that, and everyone interrupts and no one gets... And then we say, but there's this way of doing it, which will solve those things. Could we take that kind of approach of what happens for you? What is your experience of leadership? Where are your challenges? And here's a model that addresses them. So could that be a way of actually opening the training? We will look at the challenges of leadership and present you with tools, and this is what it'll be, or something along those lines. So we work with what they're bringing, their specific leadership problems at the moment.
Can you think of anything else that would attract people to the course about leaders as thinking partners, and what elements would the course need to have in it?
There is a sort of shift in perceptions, isn't there? There is this weird thing happening in the world of work that I hear from people around me. Workplaces are getting increasingly challenging, longer and longer hours, all of that. And there's a head of steam building up of, we know that mental illness is on the increase. Strategies to tackle those like mindfulness are on the increase, but it's a sort of systemic problem. So that you, as an individual, you can do these things to a degree, but if the system changes, that is the thing that's really needed. So it's a very forward-thinking thing to do this. It's efficient, and I think we're also seeing the emergence of flatter structures in workplaces. So Simon talking about the teal companies that don't have such a hierarchy. And lots of smaller companies, newer companies are like that, aren't they? Because people are more used to, younger people perhaps, I don't know, more used to driving themselves or living in a different sort of world. So that may be an assumption. But it certainly seems there's a shift as more and more people are educated. There's less need for those sorts of hierarchies anyway. So it's going to work, it's efficient. it's light. It actually lifts the weight off. Maybe as some marketing strategies, we could make a few more of these films, and we could we interview one or two people. What is your experience of leadership? We could find a good question. And is there anyone we could ask who could reflect on their before and after experience? So before they learn the thinking environment, or I don't know, have to have a think about who do you know? You know, mainly. Who do I know? I just had a sort of cheeky idea about whether you could send leaders into other people's workplaces and facilitate a meeting for somebody else. I don't know whether that's helpful or not. Just mixing it up a bit, mixing up teams, and I don't know. That would help. I think that's it.
Is there anything more that you think that would attract people to a course about leaders as thinking partners and ideas for content?
I think I'm done for the moment.
Is there anything more that you'd like to achieve with the session?
Think about what I can contribute to this project.
Is that you'd like to think about what you can contribute to the project?
Yes.
To this project. What could you be assuming that would get in the way of thinking about how you can contribute to this project?
Assuming that I don't have enough relevant experience.
Anything else?
That's a big one. That's the one, I think.
So do you think that it's true that you don't have enough relevant experience?
Well, what's enough? I have some relevant experience, and I have my observations of the world and what I hear people say. And I do... So I'm also assuming that I have to know lots about this to contribute, but I am a creative person as well. So I guess that I don't think it's true that I don't have enough relevant experience. Enough. I have some. And I have other qualities, so... Yeah.
So would you say it's true or not true?
Not true.
I thought you were saying that, and those are your reasons.
Yeah, those are my reasons. Yes. It's not true, those are my reasons.
So what, if it's not true, that you have life experience and you're a creative person and you've heard what people say, your observations, what is true and liberating and credible?
That I'm working in a team where there is plenty of relevant experience, and I can bring my particular way of looking at the world and creativity to it, and that's enough. That is enough.
Can you say that in a tiny bit fewer words?
Tiny way.
Fewer words.
Well, it probably boils down to I am enough.
Okay, I like that. So, Caroline, if you knew that you are enough, how would you contribute to this project?
Make another pot of tea, and maybe we would do, we could sit and do it together as a dialogue. Chuck some stuff in there. I think we could have a thing hammered out by the end of the day. Go for a walk at lunchtime.
Super.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Have confidence that things will just emerge, and it's alright if they're not suitable for this moment, some will be.
Anything else that you would like to do if you knew that you are enough towards contributing to the project?
Enjoy it. Enjoy the opportunity to learn from more experienced people, as well as trusting that this is where I am at this stage of the process, and of course I will be. So that's fine, so relax about it. That's the other thing I'll do. Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Sure.
Another pot of tea.
Lovely. Let's do the appreciations and then we can pause the video.
Okay.
I'll appreciate you first. Over the time that I've been working with you, I've found listening to you incredibly beneficial. I've learnt so much from your life experience, and you encourage me to think in very different and exciting ways.
Thank you, and Shirley, to have given me the opportunity to engage with the thinking environment and to have trusted that I could think for myself has been a life-changing experience for me. And it's so exciting, and I love making these videos with you as well. And to think we're doing something really worthwhile, so thank you so much for all that you've given me with that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.